All right, I gotta be honest with you. If you are a big fan, a huge fan of the Bad Boys series of the Bad Boys franchise, this review may make you upset, or you may respect everything that I have to say. I'm really interested in diving into the comments with you guys to determine which one it will be. My name is Brandon Keith Avery, and this is just my opinion. Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my Bad Boys 4 or Bad Boys Ride or Die movie review. And if this is your first time finding me and you happen to like the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Bad Boys Ride or Die. Man, hold up, guys. I was really looking forward to this one. It's not my most anticipated film of 2024, but I will say it's probably coming in at number 2 or number 3. Now, this film is being directed by Adil El Arbi and also Bilal Fallah. And if you're not familiar with these gentlemen, if we just scroll down and glance at their filmography, they did a couple of episodes of Miss Marvel, but also they was responsible for the last film, Bad Boys for Life. They are 2 directors, both had their hands on this at the helm behind the camera, and these are also the gentlemen that were in charge of the Batgirl film that was not released, that the CEO of that film, David Zaslav, decided to shelve it even though it was completed. It was rumors that it wasn't the best as far as test screenings are concerned, and it really does suck because I was interested in seeing it. But those are the films and TV shows that these 2 gentlemen had a part of in the past. Now, like most people, guys, I'm a huge fan of Martin Lawrence. I'm a huge fan of Will Smith, have been all my life, and the Bad Boys franchise is some of my favorite that I own in my entire collection. I have Bad Boys 1 and 2 right here on Blu-ray, and also Bad Boys 3, Bad Boys for Life right here on 4K. I can't remember the last time I did watch this one, but I will be watching it again recently just to compare it to part 4 and the rest of the films in the franchise. I'm just now noticing that it says includes an alternate ending that I was not familiar with in the past. And so if you've seen that, let me know in the comments, but I actually cannot wait to dive into that after I get done recording this review. But my expectations for this film, Bad Boys 4, Bad Boys Ride or Die, was through the roof. Like I said, I love the franchise. I love the characters leading and performing. One of my favorites of all time. Going back to Bad Boys 2, that highway chase scene that was directed by Michael Bay, in my opinion, one of the best highway chase scenes in an action adventure movie ever. The only one ever just competing with it is The Matrix 2, The Matrix is it Revolutions or Revisions? I can't remember exactly what Matrix 2 was called, but that chase scene and the one in Bad Boys 2, dope as hell. Shout out to Michael Bay. Michael Bay was my favorite director of all time at one point until Transformers 2 Revenge of the Fallen came out. But I digress. I was really looking forward to this film. My expectations were through the roof, like I said, and just kind of hearing some rumblings of what other critics and pundits said about this Bad Boys 4, this Bad Boy Ride or Die. They saw the film before the premiere, the world premiere. A lot of them were saying this is the best in the franchise, that this is one of their favorites. And so with me hearing that, I was like, okay, hey, I want this film to deliver. Did it or did it not? Of course, we're going to talk about that. But before I get into all the nitty gritty, before I talk about all my likes and dislikes, let me tell you exactly what this film Bad Boys 4 is all about. When their former captain is implicated in corruption, 2 Miami police officers have to work to clear his name. All right, guys, the first thing that I absolutely loved about this film is the high level of energy at the very beginning of this film, specifically during the first opening scene. It's just fantastic. I honestly feel like I was at home. And what I love about the main characters, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence playing Mike and Marcus, it really does feel like they're playing themselves, like they're not acting, like this is not a job or career for them, like this is like their lifelong dream. And I'm pretty sure it is, but with them just playing themselves, that just makes their characters that much more relatable. Even if you're not a Miami police officer, it just feels like your homies that you're kicking it with at the cookout or some type of family reunion. And with this opening scene, it was really one of the best scenes in the movie. It's in the trailers and you've seen it, and I only saw the first official trailer and the final trailer just one time. And even though I did see those trailers, I forgot all the beats, especially the comedic ones. And it was still somewhat of a surprise for me when when I was watching in this movie. I knew that I was going to have a good time just from the first 30, 60, 90 seconds of this movie. It was fun, it was funny, it was goofy. It was exactly everything that you want from this franchise, especially these two characters. They did not miss a beat, and I knew that we were in for a fun time. And of course, we're going to talk about that in detail a little bit later. And as far as the comedy is concerned in this film, Martin Lawrence, he steals the show. I mean, the guy is just hilarious. He's always been funny to me. He's one of the funniest people I've seen in TV and movies all my entire life, and he nearly did not miss a beat in this film. And I did say nearly, and I'm going to come back to that. But he was hilarious in this film. He was funny. I love the comedic timing. Even during serious scenes or silly, goofy scenes, he was the funniest in this movie. And Will Smith too. Will Smith is just as funny, if not funnier in some points of his career, but I just have to give the trophy of the comedy to Martin in this film. They were both funny, but it was just something a little bit over the top with Martin Lawrence's character, and it was just so genuine, pure, and passionate from his role, from his character. I loved it. I ate the whole thing up, and so did everyone else in the auditorium that I was watching this movie with. Another aspect that I loved about this film is the inclusion of supporting characters from past films. They didn't miss a beat as far as that's concerned either. I love that they brought back Captain Howard. I love that they brought back Reggie, and we all remember that scene in Bad Boys 2 when he was knocking on the door of Martin Lawrence's crib trying to take out his daughter. He's back. He's a U.S. Marine. He's big, he's swole, and he has a prominent role in this film. And I also love the inclusion of Will Smith's son, Armando, from Bad Boys 3, Bad Boys for Life. He did a great job too. Now, I'm not spoiling anything for you because this was all over the trailers. Relax. I promise I'm not spoiling anything for you. But if the inclusion of these characters wasn't present in this film, it would not have been as good as I thought it was in the end. They were a great addition to this entire feature, and they didn't feel forced or shoehorned in at all. Also, with the return of supporting characters, we do have Teresa Randall, who played Teresa in the first 3 films. She did not come back for reasons that are unknown to me. She's being replaced by Tasha Smith here, who is another great actress. And I will be honest with you, Teresa Randall is my favorite out of the two. I hate to compare, but I'm going to be honest with you, but she is missed. I don't know if they could negotiate anything on the contracts, and I thought I heard a rumor that she was sick or ill, but I'm not entirely sure. That may be false. But she is being replaced by Tasha Smith here, who again is a fine actress, and I think she did a decent job. She's not in the film that much at all. At least half of her scenes are digitally looking through somebody's phone. But when she was on screen, okay, it was cool. I do miss Teresa Randall. I'm not gonna lie to you, but her scenes were brief in this movie. They were okay. They were decent, and so I just want to give her a thumbs up too. What I also liked about this film are the cameos from prominent social media influencers, to where if you're on Instagram, you're most likely going to recognize at least one guy, and also the respect that they give to past director Michael Bay, who directed the first 2 films. I do miss him directing these movies, I'll be honest with you, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the review. I don't want to ever see him direct another Transformers movie, but I do love the first Bad Boys 2 films, and he is solely responsible for how fantastic those movies were. Now, the next thing I loved about this film is our 2 main stars, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, playing Mike Lowrey and Marcus Burnett. I do like where their story is progressing. It feels very mature. It feels very natural. It feels like the perfect transition from things that we knew in the past from their characters. It's very realistic from the viewpoint of the lives from past films. Mike Lowrey has never really settled down. He was known and teased as a player in past films, and that may be too old for him. He may want to settle down in this film and just start a family. And I think that's something fresh and new that we haven't got before. And also when it comes to Marcus Burnett in this film, I love where he's going as well. There's something that happened to him at the very, very beginning. And I'm not going to spoil anything here as well. Please relax, please relax. But he has a new look on life. He's trying to turn over a new leaf. And like I said, I thought it was very natural. I thought it was very mature, very nice transition, and I loved where he was going as well, while also trying to be a Miami police officer, which can be very, very dangerous, dealing with near-to-death situations every morning of each day. Now, the story and the plot of this film, it did take a good minute for it to get started, and that goes to the pacing of this film, which I'll talk about a little bit later. This movie does come in at around 1 hour and 58 minutes, and for the most part, it does flow quite naturally. But I did like the story too. We've seen it somewhat in other films and television shows before, but never in the Bad Boys franchise. And again, with this being part 4 and you don't want the plot to get stale and old or just repetitive, I did like the way that it was going. Again, it did seem like a natural progression. The story itself, just like the character's arc in this film, seemed like a natural progression. So I love that cohesion between the characters and the story, the plot, the synopsis of this film. It was all woven together quite nicely, and so great job there too for the writers. And what's great is, even though I love the silliness, the goofiness, and the comedy from the Bad Boys cast, from this entire franchise, this series, when the plot kicked off, that's where all this seriousness started to kick in, especially from Will Smith, Mike Lowry's character. I said, okay, we're not effing around anymore, okay? We're in the trenches now, and we got to figure out this maze. We got to figure out this puzzle. And I did like it. I was saying to myself, how are they going to solve this? How are they going to get out of this situation? I'm intrigued. I'm interested. I'm highly anticipating what's about to go down. Let's do this. I mean, you see it in the trailer for this movie. Captain Howard died in part 3, but he's returning in this film in brief scenes saying, oh, he's part of the cartel. He's a drug dealer. He's doing this. Who is framing them? I'm like, oh, I like where this is going. This is pretty dope. I love this. Let's get into the nitty gritty. Who is at the top of the food chain that is pulling all the strings? Who is the corrupt cop on the higher up that is in charge of all this? I cannot wait to see the reveal. I cannot wait. That's how I was feeling in this movie. That's what's pulling you toward the edge of your seats and making it so entertaining. Now, the villain in this film, I thought he was decent. I thought he was solid. I don't want to reveal his name or picture here because that was not in the trailers, and for the third time, I don't want to spoil anything for you. But he was violent. He was ruthless. He was cold-hearted. He will kill you very, very quickly. And all these movies and TV shows, they always have to establish the villain early on in the film to let you know who's boss, let you know that they're not effing around. And they did a great job with that. Doing his first kill, I was like, oh, damn, it's just like that? Man, okay, we cannot mess around with this guy. He will freaking blow your head off if you cross him, or if he even thinks that you're getting in his way or stopping his scheme of trying to take over the world. No, he's not trying to take over the world, but he is trying to do some nefarious things in this movie. And I was like, okay, solid villain, solid villain. I like him. Let's see if he's going to execute throughout the whole film. But I did like him for the most part. And another thing that I liked about this film is there's a lot of emotion that drives all the characters leading and supporting in this film from the past films. And I like how that carried over. I talked about this before, but that's just that natural progression in this film that also makes it feel like this movie is not just a money grab, and they had a valid reason, a valid story to tell to make this film. No one likes it when they're just like, okay, hey, let's just make another movie because we want to make money. Yes, of course, that's the primary reason, but I also want to feel that they're passionate about it, or at least give me the illusion that you are because you love what you're doing. And that's what I did feel like in this film, okay, that all of the characters were just really here because they wanted to be here. You know, it was a passion of theirs and not just a paycheck. When, again, I know that's one of the main reasons. We all got to eat, we all got to live, but I want them to be able to enjoy themselves too, and it did feel that way. And guys, we got to talk about the action now. Action in these Bad Boys films, these Bad Boys franchise, is what it's mainly known for. First 2 films knocked it out of the park, and I also thought that part 3 did as well, and the action was pretty dope in this film too. And I will say, one character that you're not expecting had a huge action scene, a huge action beat in this movie. It surprised me, it blew me away, and everybody else in the auditorium. I mean, people were cheering out loud, laughing, and clapping. It was a great balance, a great mixture of great serious action and comedy too, which can be very difficult because I want to feel like there is a real threat, like there are stakes, and they're not just invincible, that they're just gonna survive no matter what and can just get through a whole barrage of bullets. No, that's not the case. Great action scene, not just in the middle, but throughout the whole film. There was great gun battles, hand to hand and knife to knife. I want to talk about it so much right here in spoiler form, but I just can't do that. But I was really entertained by the action. It was pretty dope. I will compare it to the other films towards the end of this review, and I know I keep saying towards the end of this review, but the action was great in this film. It really was. And there was an airplane action scene. I was like, damn, I've never seen this before, really, in any movie or especially in the Bad Boys franchise. How in the world are they going to survive? How are they going to get out of this? I'm tricked. I don't know. I cannot figure it out. And I was drawn in. They did a really good job. I got to give it to them, real talk. And it's not just the action itself. It's the way it was shot. The way they put the camera in a number of these scenes was dope as hell. Got to be honest with you. Of course, I'm going to be honest with you. I love all the first person shooters. There were really impressive drone shots as well. They tried to mimic the signature Michael Bay camera turn when it's spinning around the room in 360. Didn't knock it out as great as Michael Bay has in his past films, but it was still pretty dope. It was still pretty nice. They got close enough, if I have to be honest with you. Also, the way that they would put the camera on certain random pieces of debris, like an air tanker or whatever, and have that move or fly across a scene with the camera spinning around, that may sound like it makes you dizzy or something like that, but that was very effective too. I like that. Something I've never seen before in this franchise or anything that Michael Bay did. So I like the nod to past shots of the camera in the Bad Boys franchise from previous films, and also something fresh and new that we've never seen before. Great job there. I mean, really just so many different angles, and you're pretty much gonna love them all. But guys, those are the things that I really did enjoy about this film. Now let me transition to some things that really did not work out for me. The first thing is, I thought that there were too many unnecessary deaths. And actually, I don't wanna say too many like there was 5, but there was at least one to where I said, why did you kill this character? You did not have to do that. That was completely uncalled for. I like this person. I wanted them to live. And for me, in the Bad Boys franchise, there's just something about the tone to where, in my opinion, you don't have to kill characters for there still to be stakes. Yes, some people have to die, but there's just prominent supporting characters that should just stay alive, in my opinion. I was really bummed out in part 3 when they killed Captain Howard, and I was also really bummed out in part 4 when they killed this other certain character. You're not gonna see it coming, but I was really bummed out, and again, thought it was completely unnecessary. Also, while I did love Martin Lawrence's character in this film, Marcus Burnett, and the new journey, the new look on life that he had going on during this film, I thought that they should have dialed it back at a number of times in this movie to where it was a bit jarring for me. Some of the pacing in this film is great for the most part, but there was a scene or two where he is giving some long monologue about a donkey. It really wasn't that funny to me. I thought it was kind of long and drawn out. And I also did not like one scene in particular to where he was just acting too silly, too goofy during a certain action scene. I'm like, bruh, you're about to die. There are bullets literally flying by your head, and you want to act silly in this moment? It clocked me out of the whole action scene. Now, there are other action scenes in this film that I did like, but this scene right here was stupid. It started out great, but when they started doing this, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, it has to deal with candy, I was just like, come on, man. Like, I want to take this seriously, and you're not taking it seriously. I don't know why you put this in the film, whose idea it was, but they should have left this on the cutting room floor because it just did not work for me at all. They should have dialed it back a bit, but you know, hey, it is what it is now. The next thing that really didn't work out for me, or I'll say that didn't reach its full potential, was the villain. The villain was decent. He was fine. He was solid in this film. And like I said earlier, he was cold and ruthless, but he did not match Johnny Tapia from Bad Boys 2. He did not match Antoine Fuqua, who you see right here, and I don't even know how to say his name. Now, he was in Bad Boys 1 and Johnny Tapia was in Bad Boys 2. I don't know what it was about those first two villains. They was cold, heartless, and ruthless too, but much more than the villain here in Bad Boys 4. And I don't know if it's because they just had thick accents as well, but they blew the villain away in part 4. Again, the part 4 villain was decent. He was solid, but didn't hold a candle to the villains in part 1 or 2. And so that's just kind of another bummer there, in my opinion. Also, I did not like is there's a brief moment or two that was in the trailers that I was really looking forward to that they did edit out the film. I was waiting on that to pop off. That is false advertising to me. You can't make a trailer, and everybody does this a lot of the times, where you say, this is what's going to be in this movie. This is what's enticing you to see it, but then you don't include it in the final film. Now, we know that when trailers come out, the final film is not finished, but still, you should have some rule. There should be some mandate to whatever is in the trailer should be in the final film, and that was not the case in one particular scene, and it honestly did piss me off. Something else that I really didn't care for, when it comes to the story and the plot, it started out great, and I wanted to know what was going to happen. I couldn't wait until the final reveal of who was at the top, who was pulling all the strings, who are all the corrupt officials that Captain Howard was talking about in the trailer for this film. When it was revealed, I said, okay, I got you. I didn't see it coming, but it was really shallow to me. They could have went much deeper, especially trying to tie itself back to the first 3 movies. And I feel like that was a huge missed opportunity. I wanted the reveal to be like, oh, damn it, Gina, really? You were the one with all these intricate plans and details and strategy. It was you. I feel so betrayed, but I just didn't feel that way at all. I was just like, oh, okay. I didn't see it coming, but it just really wasn't that big deal. I mean, some people probably predicted it. I didn't, but to be honest with you, I wanted more. And the last thing about this film, guys, that really just grinded my gears, this is the biggest sin, is when it does come to the action, it was great. And I did enjoy it. And I was smiling ear to ear. And like I said, one of the supporting characters had one of the biggest action scenes towards the middle of this film. It was funny. It was entertaining. It pumped your heart. It got your blood boiling. It was great. But still, in the end, the action did not come remotely close to anything in the first film, or especially the second one. When they were leading up to the final action scene, hyping everything up, I said, wait a minute. Is this all y'all have to deliver us? Okay, maybe I shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Let me just see the whole action scene play out, and it could be up to par. But it was not boring, but at the same time, it was a bit lackluster, and it didn't come anywhere close to part 1 or part 2, in my opinion. I don't want to say that it was anticlimactic, but man, my goodness gracious, I did want more. I just don't understand how you can go into this film knowing what the first 2 films delivered to us fans many, many years ago and not come close to that. You should be trying to exceed those past films, or at least reach the same benchmark, and this just didn't come close. It didn't come close. Again, in Bad Boys 2, that action scene on the highway, even before the highway chase scene, the street shootout, that was crazy. That was insane. It never gets old to me. In the highway chase scene, even in the movie where they're throwing cars off of an 18-wheeler. In part 2, there is a car hanging off of a chain, ramming other cars. While the car getting rammed, there's a guy hanging out the window, letting off his semi-automatic weapon while the driver's like, oh, fuck, Jesus Christ. And then it just busts into flames like an explosion. There's nothing remotely close to that at all. And again, in part 2, the battle in Cuba at the house of Johnny Tapia, he was fighting the whole Cuban army. We had Marines and Navy and this Special SEALs and this Army Ranger. I mean, it was insane. This was nothing close to that. And it doesn't have to be the exact same. I know that's very hard to duplicate, but can you at least try to get close? How many people were in that action scene at the end of part 2 on the good side, the protagonist side, or even the antagonist side? It was barely over one handful of people on the protagonist side, in my opinion, in this film. And I just don't understand that. Again, it was entertaining. I did like it. And this movie did not suck. But if I'm comparing this to other films, just didn't cut the mustard. Just didn't cut the mustard. I will give my rating for this film at the very end, guys, but for now, that is just my opinion, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please go ahead and give me the thumbs up. Leave a comment down below of your thoughts about the movie and my commentary. Share the video and hit that subscribe button. My next milestone is 75,000 subscribers. And if I had to rate Bad Boys 4 or Bad Boys Ride or Die out of a 1 out of 10, and again, this is also in comparison to the other 3 films and where I would rank them, I would have to give this film a 7 out of 10. Yes, a 7 out of 10. That is not a bad rating. I still enjoyed this film. I was smiling for the most of the duration of this movie, and I think that you will enjoy it. Go see the movie. I am not telling you that you shouldn't see it. Spend your money on it. It is a good, entertaining film. It just did not reach its full potential for me, and I'm a bit disappointed with that. But guys, again, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.